they're for it, but not when folks are coming to break their windows and to set trash cans on fire. That's not acceptable. That's not a part of who we are as a city. But inflicting injury, bodily harm, harm to property, that's not accepted, nor should it ever be tolerated.
The council member also tells KNX his district is expecting to see protesters and demonstrators passing through downtown LA this week, but expects things to be peaceful.
LA City Attorney calls for a commitment to activism and peaceful protests in the wake of Derek Chauvin's conviction for killing George Floyd.
He called the murder of George Floyd a galvanizing moment.
And it led millions of Americans across our nation to rise up and demand meaningful reform now in our policing institutions, in our criminal justice system.
City Attorney Mike Feuer called Chauvin's guilty verdict one important step forward, recognizing there is still more to do.
I am committed to achieving full social and economic equality for every single Angelino.
He also said it is a person's right to participate in a peaceful protest and our collective obligation to facilitate that right. A coalition of journalism organizations has issued a letter to Southern California law enforcement with several demands given a series of incidents involving police officers and journalists covering demonstrations. One demand is that they impress upon frontline supervisors that individuals who self-identify as journalists acting in a news-gathering capacity must be afforded full access. Margaret Carrero, KNX 1070 News Radio.
Taking the drive on the 105 from LAX to Norwalk and more at 6:15. Traffic coming up in less than 4 minutes. It's 6:11.
For 85 years here at Stater Brothers Markets, we've been frosting, frying, seasoning, and serving. Because we're not simply in the grocery business, we're in the people business, doing the right thing for the right reason. Stater Brothers Markets, our reason is you.
Frontier presents Confessions of a Laptop.
Hey, your laptop here. Your slow, unreliable internet is making things a drag, my friend. It's time to get Frontier Fiber Optic Internet. With upload speeds up to 25 times faster than cable. And because it's fiber optics, it's more resistant to bad weather. Frontier 500 meg starts at just $59.99 a month plus tax. See the light. Switch to fiber with Frontier Fiber Optic Internet.
Go to frontier.com/yfiber for complete offer details. Service is subject to availability and all applicable terms and conditions.
The new sound of mealtime. The Farmer's Dog is real food, made fresh and delivered right to your door. No extreme processing, no preservatives, just fresh meat and fresh veggies you can see and hear right in the bowl. Make that processed kibble crunch a thing of the past and switch to a fresh diet from the Farmer's Dog. Go to thefarmersdog.com/healthy to save 50% on your first box with free shipping. That's thefarmersdog.com/healthy to save 50% with free shipping. thefarmersdog.com/healthy.
AMCO presents Bet You Didn't Know.
Bet you didn't know that your car's transmission is made up of 800 pieces. Also, bet you didn't know that AMCO's fixed over 40 million transmissions and that AMCO offers a nationwide warranty.
And AMCO offers payment plan options for almost any credit situation, so it's easier than ever to fix it fast and pay it off slow.
That's where Spectrum Business comes in. They have the best business internet and phone available at prices that are up to half off what you're paying now. That's right. You can cut costs for your business and get faster internet. Just what small businesses need right now. Call 833-919-2129 and get all the value with none of the nonsense. That's Spectrum Business. 833-919-2129.
Hey, Gary, how are things?
Things are great, but I crushed my mortgage payment with owning without even leaving my couch. I got a no closing cost refi at a great low rate, and owning did it all in less than 3 weeks. It was easy, no muss, no fuss.
Be like Gary. Call Owning at 855-5-OWNING and crush your mortgage payment with today's 30-year fixed refi at 2.75% rate at APR with no closing costs. None. Zero. Even if you've refinanced recently, call 855-5-OWNING and let us crush your monthly payment even more. That's 855-5-OWNING or log on to owning.com.
NMLS 2611, licensed by the Department of Financial Protection and Innovation under the California Residential Mortgage Lending Act, subject to credit approval. Call 833-852-6464 for terms and conditions.
You can crush it too with a 30-year fixed 2.75% rate and APR with absolutely no closing costs.
I'm Zach, CEO and co-founder of Roman. Intimacy is about more than what happens in the bedroom. I hear this from our members every day. Erectile dysfunction treatment helps men feel more confident in the bedroom, but it also unlocks so much more outside of it. Roman makes it simple to connect with a healthcare professional online and find the treatment plan that's right for you. Go to GetRoman.com/talk to save $15 on your first month of ED treatment. Roman, let's take care of it.
Around the clock, the News Watch never stops.
Southern California's only 24-hour local news and traffic station.
KNX 1070 News Radio. Depend on us.
6:14, I'm Mike Simpson.
And I'm Karen Adams. Coming up,
LA and Orange counties won't be upgraded to the yellow coronavirus tier anytime soon.
I'm Bloomberg's Mona Rivera. Netflix is making money, but fewer people are signing up. That story is coming up in 5 minutes.
Nationwide reaction to the guilty verdicts against the former Minneapolis police officer who killed George Floyd. A special report at 6:20.
6:15 now. Traffic and weather together every 10 minutes on the 5s. And here's Denise Fondo.
We still have some sluggish traffic on the 405 this afternoon. Northbound side, as you're headed through Brentwood, you start to meet up with some slow traffic, and that's going to stay with you through North Hills. The DuckDuckGo route you can trust is Sepulveda Boulevard. Let's head to Bryan, 105 Jam Cam.
Another slow ride for you here. Eastbound, of course, from the 405, it's pretty slow to Crenshaw. Actually, from that point, reduced speeds. You really don't reach full speed on this eastbound side at all. Starting at that 110 extra slow from that point through the 710 over to the 605. Denise.
We'll see a break 91 eastbound before the 710. We've got large debris reported out in the number 3 lane. On the 210 westbound side, a little bit before Rosemead Boulevard. New problem reported here. Looks like another stalled car in the lanes. 57 northbound, just north of Pathfinder. This may be our Diamond Bar crash, which means it's still there. We've got a 2-car wreck that CHP is now reporting on the shoulder of the road. That northbound side wasn't really slow. Looked pretty good. Northbound, you got a little bit of slowing on the northbound side as you were headed to the 57 and the 60 merge. Next report, 6:25 with more reports more often. I'm Denise Fondo in the Toyota of Glendora.com Traffic Center, KNX 1070 News Radio.
Cooler temperatures across Southern California, and we will continue to see those numbers drop as we head into Wednesday. Expect most areas to top out in the 60s, 50s expected in the mountains, along with a chance of some light rain or drizzle through early Thursday. With Southern California's most accurate and dependable forecast, I'm CBS 2's Olga Ospina for KNX 1070 News Radio.
Exergen temps 72 in Pasadena, Long Beach 60, Santa Ana 62, and in Ontario 71 degrees.
It's 6:16. The state's latest update has LA and Orange County staying put in the orange level of the state's coronavirus reopening system.
This means they'll have to wait a while before proceeding with another round of reopenings. Cases in both counties would have to fall even farther for them to qualify for a move into the yellow or least restrictive tier.
Case numbers have stabilized over the past few weeks.
LA County Public Health Director Barbara Ferrer points out COVID-19 cases, hospitalizations, and deaths have dropped dramatically since the peak of the winter surge.
With these continued stable case rates and daily test positivity averaging about 1%, we can all feel hopeful that our progress on slowing transmission is not an illusion.
The state reports close to 6.6 million vaccine doses have been administered in LA County and more than 2.1 million doses in Orange County. Claudia Pescuta, KNX 1070 News Radio.
With the possibility of demonstrations following the Derek Chauvin verdicts, the testing sites, well, the vaccination sites, actually, the city-run sites were closed today as a precaution. The county sites, those stayed open. If you did have an appointment and you couldn't get to a city site today for your COVID vaccine, patients will be rescheduled for later this week.
The case against an alleged mass shooter in Orange County continues to be delayed. The reason? A mysterious medical condition.
Prosecutors from the OCDA's office want to know why the 44-year-old suspect, who has been hospitalized since the mass shooting in Orange early April, is still unconscious. His public defender is only saying he's unable to communicate with him, but has not given a medical reason why.
The nurse who said she was going to talk to the attending physicians and give as much information as she could back to us, how long the physician expects Mr. Gonzalez to be in this condition.
The suspect charged with murdering 4 people, 1 victim, a 9-year-old boy. Earlier this month, the judge did have the suspect's attorney appear via video from the man's hospital. The judge asked to see the suspect, but decided not to move the camera after his attorney expressed concerns about the defendant's appearance. Craig Figner, KNX 1070 News Radio.
Unanimous vote. LA County supervisors support giving back land in Manhattan Beach.
It's been nearly 100 years since city officials condemned and seized the property known as Bruce's Beach using eminent domain. It was purchased in 1912 by Willa and Charles Bruce, a black couple who built a thriving beachside resort for black residents. Supervisor Janice Hahn is leading the charge to give the land back to the Bruce family.
We can't change the past, but we can do everything in our power in the present to correct this historic injustice.
Supervisor Holly Mitchell.
This is but one example of property lost, of dreams deferred, and we've got the unique opportunity to set an example.
The supervisors voted to direct the county's CEO to come up with a plan to return the property to the Bruce family and to sponsor a state bill that is required to make the transfer possible. Margaret Carrero, KNX 1070 News Radio.
Again, it is our top story today. Former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin, convicted of murder, manslaughter in the death of George Floyd, found guilty on all counts in Minneapolis today. Crowds immediately hit the streets there and in cities across the country. Here, people have been rallying in Los Angeles, listening to speakers. You've been hearing that right here on KNX. The president spoke earlier, saying this verdict proves no one should be above the law. We continue with our in-depth team coverage.
CBS News special report. This is what it sounded like in the streets of Minneapolis after the verdict was read in the Derek Chauvin murder trial of George Floyd. The verdict, guilty on all 3 charges. Reaction from the White House.
We can't leave this moment or look away thinking our work is done. We have to look at it. We've looked as we did for those 9 minutes and 29 seconds. We have to listen. I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
Vice President Harris responding to the verdict as well.
This verdict brings us a step closer. And the fact is, we still have work to do. We still must reform the system.
Chauvin will be sentenced in 8 weeks. He could face up to 40 years in jail. CBS News special report. I'm Stacey Lynn.
More at the bottom of the hour, 6:30. Let's check your money, brought to you by Pacific Premier Bank. And here's Mona Rivera.
Netflix is still the king of streaming giants, posting a stronger than expected earnings report. Than 4 million signed up in the first quarter, missing the estimate of more than 6 million. Netflix shares plunged in after-hours trading. All 3 major averages were down for the second day in a row, with the Dow losing 256 points. We check your money at 20 and 50 after each hour. I'm Bloomberg's Mona Rivera from the HMS Capital Money Desk, KNX 1070 News Radio.
A boxing greats training to make a comeback. We'll have more in 90 seconds at 6:22.
The coronavirus crisis.
As we were in the beginning,
How much distance should you keep?
throughout the crisis,
Those ICU numbers are starting to go back up.
and into the future,
Governor Newsom holding up the city of Long Beach as a model for vaccinating teachers.
we'll be there with you, for
He
you.
calls it a bright light at the end of the tunnel.
KNX 1070 News Radio. Depend on us.
The one and only original stuffed crust pizza from Pizza Hut. Get a large with up to 3 toppings and we'll stuff the crust with gooey, melty, delicious cheese. Skip the hold message and order online now at pizzahut.com. No one out-pizzas the Hut. Extra charges for specialties, more toppings, and extra cheese.
From the company that brought you Rocket Mortgage comes Rocket Pro Insight, the innovative product designed to give real estate agents control like never before. With Rocket Pro Insight, agents have full visibility into the loan status of each of their clients, so agents can stay informed on their clients' activity throughout the process and help them compete against other buyers with a verified approval. Plus, agents have the power to adjust a client's approval letter amount in real time. With the document upload feature, Rocket Pro Insight gives real estate agents the freedom to check a client's progress from anywhere at any time. They'll be able to send files on their client's behalf so they don't have to let paperwork hold up the process. That means agents can help their clients clear mortgage roadblocks and close on time. Sign up today at rocketpro.com/real estate and take your real estate business to new heights.
Call for terms and details. Equal housing lender. Licensed in 50 states. NMLS number 3030. Verified approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions.
Taking the bad drives again, and including the 91 through Anaheim Hills in 90 seconds at 6:23.
Boxing great Oscar De La Hoya continues to train for his comeback fight.
Boxing promoter Oscar De La Hoya continuing to train for a boxing event July 3rd. And no, this is not a report from 2008 when he retired from the ring. In late August of 2020, the 48-year-old said he would start training, and with a fight just 6 weeks away, he told a boxing show on DAZN his opponent would be a top fighter from the UFC. But as to who that boxer would be?
All my career, all my life, I've been chasing the best. I love fighting the best, and this is going to be no exception. I don't know yet. I mean, I have an idea, but we're not locked and loaded yet. We're very close in locking somebody in, but let's just say everybody, the world will be shocked. People are going to say, oh, Oscar's going to get smashed.
The fight will be at AT&T Stadium in Dallas and be shown on Triller. Randy Cardoon, KNX 1070 News Radio.
A longtime member of the organization that hands out the Golden Globe Awards has been expelled for sending a racist email. 88-year-old Philip Burke of South Africa was a member of the Hollywood Foreign Press Association for the past 44 years and an 8-term past president. The organization cut ties with Burke 2 days after he emailed an article to his fellow members that described Black Lives Matter as a racist hate movement and slammed its co-founder for purchasing a home in Topanga Canyon. The controversy comes as the Hollywood Foreign Press is being criticized for its lack of diversity. At this year's Golden Globes, the leadership admitted the organization currently has 0 black people among its 87 voting members.
One of the biggest casino projects in the Vegas Strip almost ready to open.
Resort World Las Vegas will officially open in June after more than 7 years of planning and building. The site where the iconic Stardust Casino once stood will include 3,500 rooms, nightclubs, restaurants, retail shops, and a spa complex with 7 swimming pools. The $4.3 billion project is the first ground-up resort build on the Strip in more than a decade. Construction started back in 2015, going through years of redesigns and significant delays due to the pandemic. Monica Ricks, CBS News.
We're going to speak with a well-known civil rights attorney about today's guilty verdicts against Derek Chauvin. It's coming up at the bottom of the hour at 6:25.
Traffic and weather together every 10 minutes on the 5s. Brought to you by Pacific Premier Bank. Here's Denise Fondo.
We've got a new crash on the 14, this time on the northbound side, just before you reach Newhall Avenue. You've got at least one truck involved in this one. Couple of trucks there, though, right now. Right shoulder of the road and the northbound side is still pretty slow as you make your way from the 5 and toward that crash. And in fact, it's still a little slow past there as you head toward Golden Valley Road. Just south of Golden Valley, it starts to ease up. Then on the 91 eastbound side, just
out through the 241. After that, you've got a nice drive until you get into Corona, just past Surface Club. You're going to see some slowing over to the 15. If you're using the fast track lanes, basically full speed ahead from the 55 all the way through to Corona. Denise.
We've got a new wreck on the 10 West LA, 10 westbound. This one is just before National. And we also have slow traffic on the 60. I think we're seeing a break here. 60 westbound right at the 5 north in Boyle Heights to get some debris out of the lanes. Pacific Premier Bank, they're worked hard to deliver the kind of service that other banks only talk about, and that's no blah, blah, blah. Pacific Premier Bank, where business meets opportunity. Visit ppbi.com. Next report, 6:35 with more reports more often. I'm Denise Fondo in the Toyota of Glendora.com Traffic Center, KNX 1070 News Radio.
Milder day today, but still have the sunshine and 60s and 70s. Into tomorrow, we're going to pick up more clouds, at least a couple days of that, and might even see some drizzle as we go into tomorrow morning.
It's 6:27.
For 85 years here at Stater Brothers Markets, we've been frosting, frying, seasoning, and serving. Because we're not simply in the grocery business, we're in the people business, doing the right thing for the right reason. Stater Brothers Markets, our reason is you.
Move in with Frontier.
Hey, it's us. Your 10 o'clock video conference meeting?
Sorry, I was on mute.
We heard you were moving.
It's time to upgrade to Frontier.
With upload speeds as fast as download speeds, Frontier fiber optic internet is lightning fast.
And it's just $59.99 per month plus activation fee for 500 meg service. And the router's included.
So, let's talk next steps.
Make the switch.
Moving with Frontier.
Go to getfrontier.com for complete offer details. Service is subject to availability and all terms and conditions.
AMCO presents Bet You Didn't Know.
Bet you didn't know that your car's transmission is made up of 800 pieces. Also, bet you didn't know that AMCO's fixed over 40 million transmissions and that AMCO offers a nationwide warranty.
And AMCO offers payment plan options for almost any credit situation. So it's easier than ever to fix it fast and pay it off slow.
That's AMCO, AA, MCO.
These days, nearly every small business owner is looking for ways to cut costs. And that's where Spectrum Business comes in. They have the best business internet and phone available at prices that are up to half off what you're paying now. That's right. You can cut costs for your business and get faster internet. Just what small businesses need right now. Call 833-919-2129 and get all the value with none of the nonsense. That's Spectrum Business. 833-919-2129.
Hey, Gary, how are things?
Things are great, but I crushed my mortgage payment with owning without even leaving my couch. I got a no closing cost refi at a great low rate, and owning did it all in less than 3 weeks. It was easy, no muss, no fuss.
Be like Gary. Call Owning at 855-5-OWNING and crush your mortgage payment with today's 30-year fixed refi at 2.75% rate at APR with no closing costs. None. Zero. Even if you've refinanced recently, call 855-5-OWNING and let us crush your monthly payment even more. That's 855-5-OWNING or log on to owning.com.
NMLS 2611, licensed by the Department of Financial Protection and Innovation under the California Residential Mortgage Lending Act, subject to credit approval. Call 833-852-6464 for terms and conditions.
You can crush it too with a 30-year fixed 2.75% rate and APR with absolutely no closing costs.
This is Southern California's only 24-hour local news and traffic station, KNX 1070 News Radio. I'm Mike Simpson.
And I'm Karen Adams. Our top story at 6:30. Derek Chauvin, guilty in the killing of George Floyd, found guilty on all counts. The verdicts could send the former Minneapolis police officer to prison for the rest of his life.
Now transferred to a correctional facility, Floyd's family held a news conference to thank the protesters, the activists, the advocates. They say justice for George is freedom for all. We have in-depth team coverage.
CBS News special report. Guilty on all 3 counts, the verdict for Derek Chauvin and George Floyd's death. Reaction outside of the courthouse in Minneapolis. Mayor Jacob Fry.
Justice has been rendered in this case, but we still have a long way to go to achieve true justice in our city and in our country.
60 Minutes Plus correspondent Wesley Lowry says we haven't arrived at justice for all just yet.
On the one hand, we see guilty verdicts, activists getting what they've called for in this case, something that looks like accountability. On the other hand, George Floyd was still killed. He was still underneath former officer Derek Chauvin's knee for more than 9 minutes. And the verdicts today don't change that.
Vanderbilt University professor Michael Eric Dyson says police reform is needed.
We dismantle systems of inequity that lead to the perpetuation of the loss of life for Black and poor people in this nation.
CBS News special report. I'm Jennifer Kuiper.
More now in our in-depth team coverage. John Burris is a well-known civil rights attorney in the Bay Area. He was co-counsel in the Rodney King civil trial back in the 90s. John, good evening, I should say. You have been involved in police brutality cases throughout your career. Is this a turning point?
It has a possibility of being one. I view it as a marking point, very much like the Rodney King case. Rodney King was a marking point at that time. People had not seen that kind of brutality. And even though many did not agree with it, it was something they saw. And it started, I think, in this avalanche where we are today with George Floyd by saying there's been a lot of cases between now and then, and people have been accustomed to seeing these cases. So Rodney King case was not accepted, but George Floyd case was. I mean, people really identified that what had happened to him was wrong, it was murder, and that the jury selection was an entirely different process. So a lot of different scenarios came into play here, and so therefore it's a much more accepted verdict and condition. So the public's acknowledgement and of police brutality cases now is much more pronounced than it was back then. And we hope that that means that we'll go forward and there'll be less police brutality but more accountability. Police officers now can see that you can, in fact, be prosecuted, and so that hopefully will have a deterrent effect on their conduct. We want to see more prosecution but less brutality. And I think this case may be a harbinger of what that represents in the future. I hope so. Cases like this have a chance, have the opportunity to change behavior. It can make people more accountable. It can cause public officials to see that maybe they need to do something different. When you have all these police officers come forward and testify, that's an indication that within the ranks of departments that you can bring about change if those in the department see misconduct and then they are willing to come forward. So this case had a lot of positiveness in it.
Let's drill down on that point of other officers and even the chief, taking the stand and saying, no, what happened was wrong. I mean, what happens in a case, though, that's not as egregious as this one? If there's no 9-minute video, there's a lot being made that, the dam broke or the silence is over. Is it really, or is it just this case brought it out?
I don't know that we can say that the dam is broken as it relates to silence, code of silence. I don't think that. I think that's really a cultural shift that has to occur within a department itself, and that's a long-haul situation. That means you got to hold officers accountable who, in fact, have seen something go down that was wrong, and they failed to step up to the plate when everyone knew that they saw it and they should have. Those people have to be held accountable, because when you do that, then you can break the hold on those who have stood in the shadows, seen that misconduct, and done nothing about it. And that's kind of the way things have mostly been. What happened in Minneapolis, the conduct was so egregious, so outrageous, that no police officer really could stand it and can take it, particularly if they're in a position to do something about it. So it put everybody in a negative light, which can happen. But all cases don't do that. And I will say that most cases are not going to be like George Floyd. There are going to be a lot of cases where there might be some misconduct, but that doesn't mean the rest of the department or other people are going to step forward. And it doesn't mean that the police chief is going to step forward or any of the command people. Those are still case-by-case analysis that myself and others will have to fight through in order to get justice for people.
John Burris, well-known civil rights attorney up in the Bay Area. John, thanks for giving us a call.
George Floyd's family talks about today's verdicts after traffic at 6:35.
Traffic and weather together every 10 minutes on the 5s. Denise Fondo.
In East LA on the 710 southbound at Cesar Chavez, right at the on-ramp, we've got a 2-car wreck. 14 northbound before Newhall Avenue, crash still there. The slow drive, it starts right from the 5 in the Newhall Pass. It starts to ease up once you get past this crash. Irvine, new wreck coming in for the 405 north past MacArthur. No slowing yet on that northbound side. 55 northbound still a little slow from the 405 to Dyer Road. And on the southbound side at the Dyer on-ramp, we have a fire just off the freeway. Next report, 6:45 with more reports more often. I'm Denise Fondo in the Toyota of Glendora.com Traffic Center. KNX 1070 News Radio.
Temps today cooled it down from where we've been. Lots of 60s and some 70s. Pretty similar as we go into tomorrow. More clouds, though, and maybe some drizzle as we go through the morning. Chatsworth, 69. Long Beach, 60 degrees. Santa Ana, 62.
It's 6:37. Back to our in-depth team coverage. Former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin convicted of murder and manslaughter in the death of George Floyd. Floyd's family fought tears as they talked after the verdict. Terrence Floyd is one of George's brothers.
I'm just grateful. I'm grateful that my grandmother, my mother, my aunts, they just got to see this history made. I'm grateful. My brother's not here. I'm grateful and I'm proud of him. I will salute him at every day of my life. I will salute him because he showed me how to be strong. He showed me how to be respectful. He showed me how to speak my mind. I'm gonna miss him, but now I know he's in history. What a day to be a Floyd, man.
He says he's thankful for all the people who gave the family their support and their prayers.
The dean of the social science division at UCLA, Darnell Hunt, tells KNX this was far from a typical police wrongful death trial.
This case was somewhat unique in the sense that we had a DA who was quite aggressive in bringing the case forward. The prosecution put on a great case. The police chief testified against one of his own. I mean, that doesn't happen. So this case is something of an outlier. I mean, I think justice was done, obviously, in this case, but we're far from resolving the issues that bedeviled us for years, and that we continue to confront with other cases across the country.
Hunt says this was an important verdict, and he's glad the Floyd family received the justice they deserved.
And the 3 guilty verdicts are met with satisfaction and celebration in South L.A.
Between 45 and 50 people carried signs saying justice at last and guilty, 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 waving them at motorists at the corner of Normandy and Florence. Damon Johnson, who began organizing the rallies at the beginning of the Chauvin trial, says while the verdict happened in Minneapolis, the progress toward reform is moving ahead in L.A.
When we start to take jobs away from the police officer, we start to take duties away from them and give those duties of nonviolent responses to someone who's more professionally trained to respond to those nonviolent calls, I think that's how we start to set the precedent.
The key in the future, he says, is to ensure that government provides personnel and the funding needed to make the intervention teams a permanent fixture in the cultural and justice system in L.A. Pete Demetrio, KNX 1070 News Radio.
Some leaders in the African-American community say guilty verdicts not a reason to celebrate, rather opportunity for people of color to breathe a sigh of relief. Reverend J. Edgar Boyd, senior minister, First African Methodist Episcopal Church of Los Angeles, he tells KNX some justice was served to Floyd's family just in time for Mother's Day.
Isn't it ironic that George Floyd in his final moments of life would cry out for the help and aid of his mother, showing and I think demonstrating the tremendous role that mothers play in the lives of all of us, and especially all of us here in the Black community.
Pastor Boyd also tells KNX latest developments as a reminder the country is headed to a place of accountability, ensuring fairness from law enforcement.
L.A. City Attorney Mike Feuer called today's verdict one important step forward in the fight for justice.
In the wake of the jury's decision, Feuer urged the channeling of every ounce of necessary activism into constructive action.
I stand here today to say that if you choose to participate in a peaceful protest, it's not only your right to do so, it is our collective obligation to facilitate that right.
He also underscored what he called a bright line
between freedom of speech, freedom of expression, peaceful protests on the one hand, and unacceptable acts of vandalism or violence or destruction on the other.
With regard to protests, a group of journalism organizations issued a letter to law enforcement agencies in Southern California demanding